Oh, there we go. Hello, it is 7:01. It is a random Thursday night. It is 10th of October, 2024. And hopefully you can now hear me because I have fixed the audio. All right, so I haven't done one of these streams in a couple of years, and obviously not having the audio work straight out the gate is pretty par for the course from 2 years ago. Nothing much has changed. And this is a live stream where every week what we would do a couple of years ago is look at something to do with Ruby on Rails, look at different gems, and kind of have a couple of example apps that we would try and work on, try and move forward, anything like that. So things have changed slightly for what I want to do with this. I had a couple of ideas for applications to build. And there's a couple that I think could be actually pretty useful for me in a couple of various aspects of my life. And there's one that really caught my attention. And obviously with all of the release of things like ChatGPT and stuff like that, I was sort of playing with it in my spare time a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay, I think there's a really good application to build here. I think it's pretty straightforward. Not a huge amount of complexity in it, and I think it would be fun to try and get something up and running, but I have some real world use cases that I would like to use it for. And so what I figured we would do is have a little section up front here that I'll try and clip so that I can actually make a little clip that's like, what are we working on? Because when I would do this previously, people would show up and say, hey, what are you working on? People sort of randomly coming across Twitch and stuff like that. So it would be pretty handy to have something to point them towards. So we'll do that part first. And then we'll try and code some of it. And last time I ran these streams, what I would do is not do anything in the meantime. I wouldn't work on the app really. Maybe would do some git commits or something like that. I actually want to do this the opposite way around this time. I think the live streams are going to be a slightly irregular schedule just because of slightly different life going on these days. So we'll just do the streams, try and do one a week, but not necessarily always at the same time. We'll do a little bit impromptu. And what we will do is just a slice of whatever is happening at that point. So I'm going to try and work on the app, in front of the TV even and things like that, just to try and get something up on its feet, which we didn't really worry about too much last time I was doing this. I had other sort of stuff going on. All right, that's enough of an intro. Why don't we take a look at the application that I think we want to build. So let's jump over to my screen. And I've been using this Freeform app from Apple, and it's been pretty good to try and sort of sketch things out, just whiteboard stuff. It's pretty handy for that. So I'm just checking on the stream in the background while that goes on. All right, great. So the app is Promptably, like that's the domain name I grabbed hold of because I thought it would be a catchy name. And all right, let me start again because I want to try and be able to clip this, like I said. So I want to build an application where we can use something like ChatGPT or these like new sort of like chatbot language models to gather and collate qualitative stuff. And that could be feedback, views, thoughts, opinions, anything like that. And so one of the things I had said previously is that most applications I'd ever worked on, you sort of generally end up building a form builder. Like that's almost something that you always bump into. You just generally need to ask people an arbitrary list of questions, and people want to be able to define the list of questions and how they would like the answers back. And I was having a conversation in a few different contexts where I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll have a form and we'll get that filled in and we'll be able to gather some information. But a lot of the information that gets asked for is like vibe based. So you sort of say like, how do you feel about this on a scale of 1 to 10? Or, how would you, pick from these words? All of those usual sort of like mechanisms to get information from people. And with the last year or two of things like ChatGPT, I was like, oh, this is a much more fun way to get the same qualitative information because you can deliberately have something rather than someone, but like in a chat interface, you can have this idea of go and find the answers to these questions from this person, pick up on their vibe, no matter what the conversation, no matter how that goes, and you could define a bunch of parameters around that, and then turn that into something for me, the recipient. So you could say like, here, have a conversation, and then you could say to again to ChatGPT or something like that, tell me how positive or negative this person was, or give them a feeling, analyze this conversation and see how their view on X or Y or something like that. And again, because those large language models are pretty hallucinatory a lot of the time, it's really qualitative. It's really a case where you can then dive in and gather information yourself, because so often it does end up with that form builder element of like, rank this from 1 to 5, and you're placing the burden on the recipient. And I do still think we'll end up building a form builder, because I don't think I've ever worked on anything where you don't end up building a form builder. But I think it'd be fun to see if we could get a chatbot to sort of get the same information out of people. So I knocked up a couple of use cases here that I thought might be applicable. See if we can get this to be a bit bigger on the screen. Job applicant questions I thought would be interesting. So you could sort of like say, hey, what do you want to know about this thing? You could sort of get a sense of a job applicant from a conversational bot rather than just a form that you want them to fill in. Product manager, tech lead, team lead wants to run a retro or some sort of feedback loop for sprint or a cycle or anything like that, rather than just filling in a form or having like notes or anything. You could try and get this chatbot to do something like that. Qualitative feedback from your product about customers, that's sort of the canonical use case. Hey, I want to know about this thing. You talk to me about it. Kind of support bots, things like that do this. Event feedback survey from organizers. Again, been to a couple conferences and you sort of get the email afterwards, hey, fill out this form. Again, you might want to have a conversation. Product owner, qualitative feedback about your product. So like you have a bunch of users already using your product. So you could say, pop this chat interface into the application, ask these people these questions, and then creative feedback from clients. And so you can do all of these things. None of this is particularly, as with most applications these days, it's just a wrapper around a chatbot doing something. But the key thing that the application, what I'm looking for from an application, is the ability to sort of privately group recipients and say like, hey, these 10 people were asked these questions. There's no way for them to get access to that bot or anything like that. It's a wrapper around just those conversations. And then you can analyze, the product user can analyze the data that they give back. So it's basically as if you go into ChatGPT and instead of your conversations, you can see your customers or your teams or something like that, and then you can chop and change them. So kind of like Typeform is, but instead of having forms, it's chatbots. So it's not rocket science. It's not. It's nothing crazy. So I think it's going to be relatively straightforward, but I'd like to do some sort of fun stuff on the builds. All right, so I'm hopefully going to be able to chop that few minutes out and make that a little explainer as to what I want to build. And then I guess what I want to start on is where I'm up to now and where I want to go to. So let's dive into this one here. This is, again, this freeform app is like, it just comes with your Mac stuff. It's pretty good. So let's draw out a sort of a prototype use case, or like a prototype user journey, user flow over in here. And we'll see if we can build this one through. I've already started to build some of this out, and we'll figure bits and bobs out. And there's a couple of other ones that are missing here, and we'll get to those ones. So basically, we want to know what you want from these people, what you want from these recipients. So what is the prompt? What are you asking the recipients? What conversations does the author want to have with the recipients? Make this a bit bigger on the screen. Hopefully you can see this. And what is the prompt? Like, what's the prompt? When do you want to send it? So the idea of these conversations is they would be asynchronous. So you basically say, I want to know this in 2 hours. I want to know it in next week or something like that. And the other thing that I would love to be able to do is have recurring versions. So one of the use cases that I often find is that I want to know the same piece of qualitative information over a period of time. And so when do you want to send it? How often do you want to send it? Things like that. That's send the prompt. Who do you want to send it to? Who are the recipients? So again, this is the idea of what I'm looking for is a closed group of recipients. So an existing group of customers, your team, your colleagues, your company. There's some way that you can say like only these people can receive it, only they can respond to it. So there's obviously some sort of sign-in mechanism or an email, or it goes to their Slack, or there's some privacy there. So who do you want to send it to? Again, these are sort of steps that we'll touch on in the application. There's a little note, a reminder. I put set a session var there because I've started to build some stuff out, and we can take a look at that in a second. This is pretty specific to the bit that I've been building. Again, I'm not working on this only on stream, so there'll be bits that won't make sense, but you'll have to just sort of pick up from context as we go along. So here, is there a current user? I'm interested in having people sort of like define these things without bothering to create a user account. And then we'll run through this idea of like, if they don't have an account, it's just usual stuff. If they don't have an account, go and make one. If they already have one, force them to sign in. And then once you know who they are, claim the prompt. So you say like this thing that you're creating, go and take ownership of it. And then confirmation. Hey, we'll send this, this application will send this prompt to your recipients at the given point. And that is pretty straightforward. Ish. I haven't built it all yet, but that's pretty straightforward. So then there's the next step of this, which is that in the background, there is a worker that will pick up jobs from a queue. So when you are scheduling your prompt to go out, you say, hey, I want this to go out in a week. And so the job will be ready in a week's time. And then you get a unique link that goes to the recipients. And I've done this as an initial use case, which is send unique link to the recipients. In reality, I think this could also be like ping them on Slack or whatever. You're basically triggering that conversation in whatever delivery mechanism you've opted to send it as. We'll assume for now it's just an email because that's like the simplest thing to do, to send them a unique link. And then I think I did carry on. Use a receive link. So it's a magic link, so they can just start replying to the conversation. So it has everything they need. They can just click on it. We'll assume that whatever the mechanism is secure for now. We'll sort of come to that as we go through all this stuff. And I think that's where I'm up to. I think at this point, it's then what I believe has become sort of a standard interaction with these chat applications, which is, there's a box and you type into it and then the thing types back. That seems to be pretty standard these days. I use these things like everybody else does. I'm just going to check the audio on the stream because... Okay, cool. It is still going out. Cool. All right, great. So we'll assume there's some sort of chat interface here and people can respond to the prompt. Now, what I then want to be able to do, what's missing from here, this is as far as I've got with the prototype that we want to do. What I want to get to is the idea where, okay, so you send it out to 5 recipients. You can then, you as the sort of prompt owner, the person who's triggering that, can go and look at the 5 conversations or whatever has happened, but then you can do stuff with that information. So you can either ask ChatGPT or whatever it is to say, give me some results about this thing. Tell me who is the most interested in this thing. Like I've collected an arbitrary qualitative data set based on conversations. Let's go and analyze it. The other thing I think I sort of want to bake in here, if we can get far enough through that, is the idea of something more structured. So it is something more like a form builder. It is something more like, oh, hello in the chat. Hello. The audio is working fine. Thank you, Homer. Thank you for the guy. I haven't done this for a while, so I'm glad it's working. So the idea of the problem with asking a chatbot to do anything is they're just gonna you don't know what they're going to do because they're so sort of unknowable in the incantations that you have to give them. So what I think we might end up doing as well, what I'd be interested in is having the idea of like specific questions or forms or something like that, just to give it way more structure for the recipient. So you can have it be a totally free form conversation, but you could also make it more of a structured form or something like that. maybe there's a way to mix the two. I'm not really sure. That would be really interesting. So could you say to a chatbot, here is the structure for a form? Could you even have it build the form on the fly? That would be pretty cool. So you could say to some large language model, here is the structured data I want. Build a form and present this to the user. I don't know if they'll do that, or maybe you build the form and then we'll present it to the user. We fill it in, we give the chatbot the responses, and then have a follow-up conversation. That would all be pretty fun. That's way down the road. Let's just get some mechanism to get something up and running. So that's like the second clip that we'll do. That's sort of the like where we want to get to on this initial run through. So that's all wireframes and boxes and bits and bobs. Let's get some actual code up and running. All right, so like I said, we're not going to try and keep this to just the stream, so we'll always be picking up wherever I happen to be finishing off. And so I have got some of this first part done. So there is this idea of I've got a vanilla Rails app that I had started a little while ago, and I was considering this. It's got devise. I think it's like a Rails 7 something application, and there are users there. And I've put in this idea of you can create a prompt. It's got this concept of a prompt, and I was looking at some gems for recurring, like how do you represent recurring event data? And so we'll take a look at that. And so I think you can get basically to the idea of like creating a prompt, and that might be about it at the moment. And I was looking at this and I was like, okay, worker picks up job from a queue, and I saw that there was a new, what's it called? It's called Solid Queue, is this new DB backed queuing gem. So I was just setting that up. I was like, okay, great, that sounds good. We'll test that out. And so I think everything in here is just the config from running through the Solid Queue setup stuff. I think that's all there was to it. So I think I'd literally just gone through the gem. One thing that is slightly different from doing this a couple of years ago, I think I sort of pondered getting a new laptop. I think doing this stream might be the catalyst for it, because Streamlabs, which is the bit of software I use for this, has become, I don't know about worse, but it's certainly no better than it was a few years ago, and it just eats up your entire CPU. You can see that actually my browser has actually crashed at that point, so hopefully it might just be Arc. It might just be Arc crashing out. I do use Arc day to day, but it's Chrome under the hood, so I can only assume it's eating all of my memory. Oh yeah, I actually think Arc has crashed there. Oh well, that was fun while it tried to last. Yeah, it's definitely Arc. It's totally gone. All right, okay, cool. So that doesn't really matter. We can just grab another browser in a minute. So I've got this idea of an example job here that I was just testing, and everything worked just fine when I was trying to get it up and running. I think I didn't touch any of the default config. I think I just ran through. I'm just going to run through these diff changes really quickly. This is from a few days ago. I was doing this. And we've got this idea of, there's a separate DB with separate migrations. This is presumably using the Rails multiple database stuff. So that was in the docs for Solid Queue. So if you're looking at setting that up, I'm going to try and bring a browser up, but I don't think it's going to like it. Should we just see, do I actually have any of the browsers installed on this? Should we just see if we can grab Chrome? Just gonna see if that will even load. I've actually set my computer up a bit better for this time around. I've put like a specific Mac user in for streaming, but I haven't installed a lot on here because okay, cool. So we've got Chrome seems to be working. I'm just going to kill Arc in the background because I think it's just struggling under its own weight. There we go. Let's see. I can hear my fan kicking off in the background. I think a new laptop might be imminent. Okay, so we can say Solid Queue Rails. All right, great. There we go. We're off. So I ran through a bunch of this setup stuff, and everything in the commit that I've got at the moment is the defaults. Yep, so you can see it all here. If anyone has any tips or good or bad or negative things if they end up watching this later. So I have grabbed Postgres. I know that there's sort of a big push to using SQLite in the new Rails, but I just figured I'd stick to what I know and just trying to get something out the door. And I have used Delayed Job back in the day, which was another database backed queue. And I think that sort of fell out of support. So then obviously you end up with Sidekick and those types of things. But this is, it said it's what their Rails stuff is working on, like Hey and things like that. So it seemed pretty straightforward. Plus it'll save me the hassle of having to have in the short term, like a Redis job running or anything like that. I should just hopefully be able to run this in the background. And I did get this running. So how did I get this running? Did I have to run that all works? So you get these configs. I'm not quite sure what that periodic cleanup. So you can do recurring jobs. That's pretty cool. Actually can't remember. I need the command for this. How did I actually run this? I did test it out because I wanted to check that my worker ran. But I have no idea what the command was. I must have run search for like bin. Let's install. Okay, bin jobs on the server that's doing the work. Okay, I must have done that. So let's see if that works. See how prepped I was from there. Oh, hey, in the chat now, I'm still going through videos on your channel. I want you the opportunity to say thanks for these awesome tutorials. Oh, hey, you're more than welcome. Just to clarify that I don't try and tutorials is a very bold word for it. I'm just usually fumbling through. So there's things like Go Rails and Drifting Ruby. Those types of things are much more structured. This is usually me just fumbling through an application. But I'm glad if they're in any way useful, that's what they're for. All right, great. So bin jobs. Oh, okay. It would help if I was in the right. Oh no, it would help if I was in the right folder. Okay, so is that silently running or is it just taking a while to come up? Because I think what I had done, I need to get item not to expand the window when I change the font size. And I need it to jump to my current location by default. Like I said, I haven't set this one up just yet. Okay, let's see if we can get console up. Okay. Gonna and then we'll see, I think, yeah, okay, cool. So this was me testing it out the other day. That's my last command run. So we'll know that we've got this job to be created, and there's nothing running in there. So let's this will start processing. Have I got a bin jobs file? Oh yeah, here. Oh, okay. So maybe that was just not... Oh, wait, did I just kill it before it got a chance to actually run the job? So all the job does is spit something out. So we're just checking that the code I'd done recently. Okay, great. So yep, this is running. So what we do is use the normal active job, action job, active job, whatever it's called. I think this is this syntax. Some of the job runners have their own syntax, but I think this is the default one. So you say like, here's the job, and then you can say set, wait until 15 seconds from now. This is all just example code. You can give it a timestamp of your making. And so for us, that will be going all the way back to our application that we're going to make. That will be the idea of like, when do you want to send this thing? So we're going to send a prompt to a bunch of recipients. When do you want to send it? Well, we're going to send it and we're going to schedule it somehow to be performed later. And we can perform that later, and then it'll go into the queue to be run later on. And this is our worker here. Great, that all works. So I think I then don't need... I think maybe I could just leave. Okay, I'll leave that there. Everything in here, I think I can just leave. And I think I'll just... I normally would commit migrations separately, but I think we're good in this scenario. This is all just one big setup. We're in our early days, so we're going to be a bit roguish on our commits. So we're just going to chuck all of that in a commit, which I wouldn't normally do, but we're early days in an application. So we can say, oh, have I set Git up as my to be edited in code? Yeah, okay, great. So we want to say introduce solid queue. This is just it's powering well, this is some of my thinking as to why I picked this, so that when I'm reading my git commit in years to come, I'll remember. And the fact that it's DB backed means I won't need to run a Redis. Is it a Redis server? Is that what runs a Redis instance? Or Redis server in the short term. Maybe switch to Sidekick later and need Redis, whatever. But this will just get us up and running in the short term. All right, cool. Copilot trying to write my commit messages, I always find pretty weird. Leaving example job in here to remind me of syntax, just so that when I forget to remove that and come across it in months and years to come, I'll know at what point to blame myself. All right, cool. That seems fine and pretty low risk. Let's chuck that one back into master for now. Again, we're in our early days here. There's no one else working on this, so it's not like our Git stuff needs to be perfect. Oh, come on. So great. Okay, cool. So we can just be on main. Great. Okay, so let's make our... we can start main and we can run through the code that we've got then. Let's do a little run through what we've got so far. I've got my server running, I think. Here, yep. Okay, so... So like I said, I've got a basic application with devise running. So in here, we will find... I think I've only added a few... Yeah, so our user model, I just had devise build it for me. So database authenticatable, registrable, recoverable, rememberable, and validatable. I think those are all the defaults, haven't touched much here. I'll come to the association in a second. So I think I grabbed all of the default devise stuff. I just wanted to get that taken care of. We'll come back to like whether we care about any of that stuff later. But all of the default device stuff is just in here. It's all of the views, everything you actually see. So if you click on sign in here, if I make this way bigger, sign up. I guess if you've forgot password, like this is all just default device stuff, so that's all good. I'll come back and polish that stuff up later. What else have we got in here? Devise is what I did first. So then I mentioned at the start I was playing with as you can see, these little messages I leave myself, haven't used this much yet. So I'm interested in this idea of when we schedule one of these events in the future, how do we make it recurring, and how do we represent that? So I wanted to sort of play around with that idea. So Ice Cube is this gem which I found really sort of welcoming, I guess is the hopefully the appropriate phrase, and it had this really good set of docs. It was like, hey, you want to represent this thing that happens on a regular basis, here's how to do it, and it all made a lot of sense. I've done a few bits and bobs with iCal, so it follows like the iCal like standard, which is never a standard, is my memory of iCal from many years ago, was that it was always a bit chaotic. Maybe that's not the case, and you could just pull it. So I introduced that gem because we'll see in a moment that I wanted to persist that somehow. Solid cube, which we've just been looking at, and view component. So view component, you can see I had this lying around because this is from 18 months ago. I actually haven't touched this in a long time. I sort of had this idea a while ago but didn't get back to it. So I wanted to sort of have a play around with view component in anger, I guess, not in anger, but like for realsies, and had used it on a couple of different like little mini things I was testing out with. In this commit, actually, so I did add Tailwind originally here 18 months ago, but I had a lot of Tailwind sort of conversations and back and forth, and I've opted out of that. It's just not for me right now in this project, but have lots of sort of regular experience with Tailwind, so I could go in that direction if coaxed, and Capybara just to get some tests up and running, I think. So that's all that's custom in here, I think. Lookbook I added at the same time as view component. So view component, if you I think we might have done this back in the day on the stream. In fact, I definitely did, because I remember reading some stuff from their GitHub and things. It doesn't seem to have changed a huge amount. It's like really neat and tidy, and I am hoping to try and go with this project as much with sort of like server-side stuff as possible for server-side rendering and things like that, and just it's like different just a sort of different thing than what I'm used to, so try and make it all lean into all of the stimulus stuff that I've sort of been playing with a little bit before but hadn't got anything up and running, but have done a bit more with since, so hopefully we'll be a bit further on. Maybe not, maybe it'll just be the usual chaos. I think that's about it. There's a bunch of other stuff here, but that's what we're up to. So we have a user. We have this concept of a prompt. So a prompt is a thing that you want to send to a group of recipients. Can I turn this off? Yeah, I'll do that for now. So you want to send a prompt to trigger a recipient to do a thing. So it's probably going to be have a conversation, but you want to, it's sort of this this action that you want them to take. So all I've got in here at the moment is this content. Arbitrarily just added a field called content, a delivery schedule. So at the moment, a prompt has this association of the thing that knows when the prompt is ready to send. And I've worked on the assumption that a delivery schedule will probably deliver more than one thing. So I think this is as deliverable. We'll look at delivery schedule in a moment. And then it is created by, and that is different from just the idea of having a user ID. So the user that created the prompt, rather than having just a belongs to user, belongs to created by, because generally tend to find that just having prompt.user, you generally need to know what the context of that is. So I've just started with created by, and rather than just jump to a separate join table or anything like that. Pretty, boilerplate stuff here to get started with. So a delivery schedule, like I said, represents how, at the moment, it's only when will I send this thing. I think it just handles the only ones I've got are like timestamps at the moment. But what I want to be able to do is say, send this every Thursday, or like send this every other weekday, or whatever the thing from IceCube allows. So what does this class do? God, there's a lot going on in my ID. So it has a it belongs to a deliverable, so a thing that is deliverable, and it validates the presence of deliverable and the IceCube schedule. The IceCube schedule is persisted as a hash, and I have overwritten the attribute, the schedule attribute of delivery schedule, so it has delivery schedule.schedule, which I already am not a fan of. I think I wrote it about 4 weeks ago, but that's how quickly your own code can become unreadable or unenjoyable. Schedule must be an IceCube schedule, unless schedule. Raise an error unless it's a schedule. I'm going to say the word schedule a million times. Or schedule if you're of that persuasion. And then I'm just doing a hash conversion on the way in and a from hash on the way out. I think there's multiple representations of schedule, so I think that's why I was doing this. What are we building? So to thank you, hello in the chat. I've done a little clip at the start, or I've done like a little 4 or 5 minutes that I'm going to clip out and make another little video on its own, so that I can point people when they're saying, what are we building? I'm going to be able to point people somewhere, because I never did that before. And so the TLDR is we're building an application where you can send someone a prompt, or send a group of people a prompt, and they can interact with something, a chatbot or a form or something like that, and then you can collate all of their responses. So basically it's like, instead of having your own conversations with ChatGPT or one of these other things, you can send that prompt to 5 or 6 people. They have the conversation with this bot thing, and then you get all of the results. You get to find out what their opinions were, how they responded to your prompt. So it's just a wrapper around those conversations, basically. Hopefully that made some sense, but there is a good explanation earlier on, which I will clip up and pop into YouTube. And that's it. I think that's all we've got so far. And we've got this prompt controller. This is all dummy. I mean, not dummy, but like boilerplate. So you basically can persist the concept of a prompt. There's a homepage, so that you have homepage to go to, just so there's a root URL. And so this is a pattern. This is a pattern that I have used before, this concept of a setup namespace. So if you have watched these streams before, you might have seen this pattern before. There's a few other ways that people do this, which they all have a bunch of pros and cons. There's like a gem called Wicked. There's like a few other things, and it's this idea of a step-by-step builder. And the other way that is really common is to like have JavaScript handle it for you. Maybe with Stimulus, you could sort of do that as one page as well. One of the sort of I'm just not very fancy half the time in my needs. So the idea here is that each step tends to end up just literally being a separate controller with its own ID, its own URL, and you can like link people straight to one step in a specific step-by-step wizard. And so I tend to call them setups, just because the pattern is that you create an object, create a resource. So in this case, it's going to be our prompt. And then all you're doing as you go through that step-by-step is setting up the other stuff you care about. So what happens here, and we can actually show this. So we've got this prompt controller. So on our dummy homepage here, you say, we can fill some of this stuff in. We can say like, what do you think about a TV, like a specific TV show? So Breaking Bad. And whatever it is. And then you can create the prompt, and that will then go through to persist that record with that content, and it will take us into prompt setup delivery path. And again, if we go back to our little like first user flow. What is the prompt? What do you want to ask people? And then when do you want to send it? So we've already stored this concept of a prompt on that homepage. There's a prompt, you've saved it. Your next step is I want to set up everything about that prompt. It's not ready yet. I need to get more information from this person. So the next step on that journey is the delivery controller, and I have just fudged this all together. So you go to this controller, it knows which prompt you've come from. You haven't signed in, nothing's happened yet, and we create this instance. We create a new instance of a delivery schedule just to render the page, which is this page, which does nothing, but we'll fill that in soon. And so that's how it's rendering that page with a delivery schedule. And then all I've done is fudge a button, which just goes to the create action. There's no UI, so there's nothing to type in. So we recreate the same delivery schedule, again, just fudging over all of this stuff to get something up and running. And then what I've done is fudged, like made up this line. So what we would actually want from the user on this page is this. When do you want to send this thing? Like in what time zone, how often, all of those fun things. So we need a user interface to gather all of that. And we then want to persist it against this delivery schedule. And the delivery schedule is associated with the prompt. So that's what we're doing there. So we can save it. So actually this does work. It's just not configurable at all. So if you click schedule and continue, you just go back to the home page because we haven't built any more yet. But what we have at this point from doing that is a prompt with a delivery schedule that will send stuff out. And what we actually want to do from here is schedule this delivery. So as we go along, when do you want to send it? Who do you want to send it to? Or to whom do you want to send it? However you say that. We don't have that step yet. Haven't built that bit. We can come back to that. That bit's boring. And claim, we haven't built that part yet because I'm just going to assume that everybody's signed in. So we'll has a user account and is signed in. We'll just fudge over that for now. That's not that interesting. Confirmation, so we can show them some confirmation on screen. That part probably is interesting. And then we want to have this idea that the worker picks that job up to send the email. We'll just do email to start with, to send the email for the prompt out to the recipients. So we're going to make some assumptions to get us started, and then we'll start coding. So let's just make a note here. So hopefully we can make this a bit bigger. And we can say, what's the date? Is that? Oh no, wait, it's the. No, wait, is it the 10th month, 10th day? Okay, fine. Haven't written the date today. So we want to say, these are just some stipulations we're going to make that we're not going to worry about. So we won't collect recipients, just send to the signed in user. We'll assume that you're gathering data from yourself. For now, you're just going to ask yourself a question. We can come back to that later. We assume everyone creating a prompt has an account and is signed in. That second sort of stipulation, that'll just save us having to bother coding out this whole, like, do you have an account? Does your account already exist? Do you need to sign in? All that stuff. We'll skip over that for now. We'll come back to it because you need it. But otherwise, we'll just assume that everyone's got an account for now. So there's only one recipient. It's you, the signed in user. We'll assume everyone using the application has an account and is signed in. And what else will we assume? What else have we got? Let's assume that all prompts are sent, I don't know, like 1 minute after being created, after clicking schedule or something like that. Like, let's just not bother with the interface of like, hey, when do you want to send this prompt? we're going to do all of these. We're going to make sure these aren't true. But for now, we're just going to set these because they're not too interesting right now. And so we can stipulate those ones. And that should get us basically to here, I think. Because everything else is stuff we're just going to skip over. And we can come back to. All right, so we've got a little note of this. All right, I said I was going to... I don't know if I can fire this up. Here, I wonder if it's worth looking at... just pull this one down to here. So I wonder if it's worth looking at some UI stuff I was sort of playing with. Yeah, maybe. So let's pull this up. So this might be another little clippable video. Probably made 3 or 4 this time. So just to try and get us through explaining what I mean. So we've got this idea of like, what's the prompt? Like, what is the thing you want to say? Like, how are you feeling about the last 2 weeks? Blah, blah, blah. When should the prompt be sent? So again, we're doing those in separate steps, but this could all be one form. Doesn't really matter. What's your email address? So again, this goes back to the idea of like, we won't need to worry about that right now because we're just going to stipulate that everyone's already signed up and done all that nonsense. We'll figure all that stuff out later. Then we've got this idea of your prompt arriving. You've got this idea of like, great, I can now respond. I can go and have a conversation with this bot. And then you've got this bot, again, there's no UI here, but then this thing is saying like, hey, how's your week been? You blocked on anything? Not too bad. How would you describe your mood? Blah, blah, blah. And we can make the prompts more complex and stuff like that. So I think that's about all that's interesting in there. I've got this idea of what is a prompt. So like what other bits of information do we want about it? So it could contain multiple questions. So how do you feel the team performed this cycle? What could we try to improve next time? What was the favorite thing you worked on? A bunch of recipients, when there's the delivery going out. It's been delivered 12 times before. You've got this many responses, blah, blah, blah. And I think we've got a few other bits and bobs. Yeah, so I'm going to run through some of these things. So some options you can have. So allow responses to this prompt. So sometimes you might just send it as a reminder maybe, or there's some other interaction. How can others respond to the prompt? Free text, questions and answers, a conversation. Again, this goes back to the idea that there's always a form builder option that I think is almost inevitable no matter what you're working on. I'm just skimming around now just in case there's anything in here that's interesting. Oh, okay. So here is playing with the idea of like, if you select daily, what time does it go out? All the usual time zone fun. Send prompts weekly, what days of the week, weekdays, all of those fun things. So Ice Cubes, the gem that I was showing earlier, handles all of those things, but the user interface metaphors to get that information built and into Ice Cubes it's every calendar app you've ever worked on. It's every calendar app you've ever used. None of them are good or bad. They're all just like various bits of, I don't know, Outlook's pretty bad. I find Outlook very bad at that. So I don't know if I would say that none of them are good or bad, but Outlook's pretty rough. So I was playing around with some UI stuff here. This is just a sketch for macOS. The idea of like, what are the delivery mechanisms? Like I mentioned, email could be one. I think Slack is an obvious one, or like chat applications. Just jumping around. Yeah, this is all basically the same stuff. Layouts, components, colors. Yeah, this is all pretty standard stuff. We're just playing around with things. Nothing else major in there. So I'll try and work on that in my spare time. Maybe we'll do a couple of streams that I did previously. They were fun, where we just did UI stuff. But that'd be good little handy things to have. All right, let's do some next steps. Okay, so what was actually next on here? So we're going to skip recipients. You're the only recipient. And we're going to do a confirmation because we can stick clear. Okay, so we want to do 2 things. We want to attach our user to our prompt, which will eventually happen here. And we want to show a confirmation screen. Okay, so let's do... I don't need this yet. So this is the idea of a claim controller. So that's this claim part here. We don't need that yet. I was just coding that out in advance. Oh, we can just go through there, can we? So if we go to, let's make our final let's make our final controller and say we'll do a confirmations controller. And at the moment, these are just inheriting from application controller. I think eventually we'll want them to inherit from a base controller, because we'll need to handle the various bits and bobs of the step-by-step nature, but we can come back again. We'll just come back to that. So this is going to be our confirmations controller, and we'll try and do things a bit properly as we go through. So we can say, oh, damn it. I don't know if I've got my... Oh, these are request specs. Okay, so I'm naming these differently. They're not controller specs. Okay, so this is delivery. So these are not plural because they are request specs. Okay, that's fine. Have I done any of these? Yeah, okay, cool. So let's do one for confirmation. So this is, while I'm getting this set up, this is something that I've done in the past. I think I don't tend to see anywhere else. I'm not sure why I do it this way, why no one else does. But it's the idea of like giving a controller action for what is effectively like an inert step. So what the most common thing I sort of see is like redirect somewhere else with like a flash success message, which makes a lot of sense. And if there is like a full page confirmation step, it's usually like another action on the previous controller, or it's just like if it's JavaScript version or something like that. I've often introduced this idea of like a confirmation controller with a show action. So there is like a full stack confirmation, and it's because my experience of confirmation screens is they just tend to get more and more complicated over time, where it's like, oh, you actually need to perform 3 other actions in here, and there's a bunch of stuff going on. And for like tracking the user, having a separate URL, or those, there's just like a bunch of useful user experience stuff you can do by having like an explicit, you are viewing the confirmation of this thing. Whereas like maybe it's just from e-commerce that I've got that, but if anyone knows why this is a good or bad idea, it's very open to it being I'm very open to it being a bad idea. It's I don't think it's a huge overhead. There's a lot of typing overhead. Like you need another controller and you need another view and all of that stuff, but that's just typing. All right, cool. So we've got a request spec, which I assume we can get running. I've been getting, I don't know what's going on. I've installed some sort of extension, or whether it's Rubocop or one of the other ones, where my the auto formatting on in VS Code now takes ages to parse, and that's not just due to needing a new laptop, because my other laptop does the same thing. So something's going on. There's like a 4 or 5 second lag when I click save, and then in like this only has 15 lines in it, and it's like doing a lot on the auto formatting. So something's going sideways. Okay, cool. So does this run? Great. Okay, so there is no confirmations controller. So again, I click Command S, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and the weird thing is that you can actually run the test in that time, while the little "this hasn't saved" marker is still there. It has persisted to disk, so something wonky is going on there. Unleash prompt setup confirmations controller. Confirmations. Oh, I did. Did I do delivery as a specific? I've always tended to do these with plurals, but okay, we'll go with. I've done delivery as a singular, so we can do the same thing here, I guess. Confirmation control. You can't have more than one confirmation, I assume. That sort of makes sense. Confirmation spec. Oh, that's why that's singular. Okay, I did. Okay, I did jump out earlier, and then we haven't set the root, so it should still fail. Just going to watch this pick up all my typos. Confirmation control. Oh, yeah, I think maybe it hadn't saved. Yeah, I want to. I think it's one of the extensions is doing some stuff. I think it's great. Okay, so we've got no path, so we can go and make our path. We don't have a create, there is only show for the confirmation. So yeah, again, oh, there's a little message down there. Form, you can even see it down there. Okay. So I press space. And now I've pressed save and it hasn't appeared. Oh, here you go. Saving roots. Ruby format configure. Oh, okay. So is the Rubocop formatter. Okay, so there is something going on there. Okay, so there's no setup confirmation path. What is... Oh, did I mess that up? Oh, I did mess that up. All right, so I think the first few of these are just going to be a lot, still a bit of boilerplate. There's still a bunch to do, but it is what it is. Great. Okay, cool. So now we have got no page coming back, and we want to do the concept of having the concept of having a confirmation, and so we can say there we go, prompt setup confirmation, and we want to check that we're doing the right thing. We can just show the ID for now. That'll be fine. And so does our test now show us anything? We haven't actually set prompt for that controller. So we have a failing test, which is great. That's what we want. And we want to... this is what I mentioned about the idea of having a base class, because there's no reason that you need to set the prompt every time on each of these individually. We'll come back to that. So Oh no, it's show, sorry, isn't it? Cool. And I've actually tend to leave I tend to leave an empty one in here like this. I think I've turned the Robocop rule off to say that's a bad idea. It's to remind me that there is an action there. So because you don't need that, I think Rails will check the presence of a show template, and if you are trying to access a show action and there's a corresponding template but there's nothing to do, I think you don't need this at all. But I appreciate that feature, but I also then get really confused. So I leave myself a little, hey, there's a show action here you might want to think about. In my code bases, if there's a pattern from the other code base, I do what they do. Oh yeah, there's no base class, so we actually can't just tell it to set the prompt. We have to actually have it go and set the prompt, which is as basic as it is. It's literally just prompt.find, where there's nothing happening at the moment. In reality, because in this step-by-step I was showing earlier, I think we want to be able to create prompts without a user. So this would all be public. You could just you could submit that form and save it. I think what we'd want to do is, instead of using ID, because at the moment I think I've sent them just to be sequential, you could have like a UUID set or something like that. You wouldn't want people to just like jump into other people's creation paths. But again, that's another thing we can stipulate that we're sort of skipping for now. So do we now have a passing test? Sorry, I'm jumping around. Great. Okay, cool. So it does a thing. And we're not going to try and do like, I haven't put a context in there for when there is a valid prompt, when there isn't, when the, like I'm saying, like when you've got the right idea or anything. We're just going to come back to a bunch of that stuff. So we have the idea of a confirmation spec. Let us link to it. So let's go. Yeah, we're not doing our create action there yet. So let's actually just make it work first, and then we'll come back and just pop some tests in, check we can get into end. So let's go from our delivery step. Yeah, cool. I'll take all of that. So theoretically now, our user, we can go back here. And again, we don't need to create, we don't need to sign in or sign up at the moment because this doesn't use that, but we'll implement that in a second. So we'll say test 1, 2, 3. We're going to create a prompt. So this is prompt ID 19. You can see here, let's create the prompt with that content. This button is just wired to the create action for the delivery controller. Click that. Prompt setup confirmation. Okay, so it all looks pretty awful, but we're now moving through that step by step. So what we now can see if we can get, I'd forgotten I'd made this claim controller. So this is if blank. Okay, let's just not. Does that claim controller test pass? Like I said, I haven't so claim spec. Damn it. Hello in the chat. I just saw someone say hi. So let's see if this test passes, because I don't know why I wrote the claim controller before doing the rest of the of that flow. But let's try and get that working. Okay, cool. So it does something. So when the prompt does not have a created by user ID, it signs in the user. It sets the created by user ID to current user. with a get action, which I've done in the past, like, because you're just spoofing it. And then I've done a test. Wow, I have no memory of doing that. Okay, cool. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So in here, we want to say, and again, just to clarify what we're doing here, we're basically going to say, we've got this idea of the prompt controller, create the prompt delivery, moved into the prompt setup delivery controller. When do you want to send it? Save that. We're going to skip this. Who do you want to send it to? We're going to skip this. Is there a current user? We're just going to assume there is for now. We stipulated that earlier. And then we're going to claim the prompt. And by claim, what we mean is the signed in user is going to say, this one's my one. So if they bail out early, they'll lose it, all of those fun things. But we're going to associate the user with the prompt they've just created at this point. And this will allow us to work through the idea of if there was a user signed in, we could do that association at the start, all of those fun things. So I think because we've already built that, I think what we can do is... prompt setup claim path, yeah, it is that. So we can say prompt setup claim path. And then this can go to the confirmations path. Great, so maybe that works and maybe it doesn't. I'm going to try this out. So, and what do I mean by it working? Can we get, I'll fire up a console just so that we can... see it's working. So we can do prompt last. It's 19. Yeah. Okay, cool. And so we should see, we'll run through that step by step again. So we'll do the creation, the delivery, and then the success of the delivery will pass us to claim. So we'll see an extra redirect, and then we'll go through to confirmation, and then we should see number 20, and it should have a created by user ID. But in order for that to take place, we have to have a user. I think I'm not using the same browser, so I think it's... Do we have any user? We have one. Oh. So test.example.com. And I always use the same dummy password, which is password. I don't want to save that. Okay, so I think we are now on our homepage. So this is going to go to that prompts controller, create. That goes to our delivery. So this is /delivery. There's no form to fill in yet, but this will go to our create action. Great, and then we're actually at setup. But if we go in to prompt.last, we see that we have associated that. So I think we should be able to visualize what's happening there in the console. So if we go back here and go to network here. So let's go back to our home page. So we can ditch all of this. If we go to test, we only really want, can I just do this? Okay, great. So we've submitted to prompts, and then we've been redirected. So that's our prompts controller. We've been redirected to our delivery controller, and we're rendering it out. And if we, can we say preserve log here? Great. Let's just move this over a bit. And so then we should see delivery claim confirmation. Great. Okay, cool. So this claim here, it's happening so quickly that we're not spotting it, but all that claim is doing is associating the sign-in user. And so that's the insertion point where we could say, hey, you're not signed in, go and create an account, blah, 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 blah. And we can do something to bring you back there. And there's a bunch of trade-offs there. There's like a bajillion different ways to do that. But what you'll often be asked to do is create your account first and then go and create the thing. So you're like, hey, you want to use this product? Cool. Just create an account. Give me your email address and password, or like sign in with some service or something. That's generally fine, but also there's a slight block there. Whereas if you allow people to start creating the resource that they're working with. In this case, it's a prompt for a conversation. They can become invested in the thing, and then they might already be a user, so they might already just have forgotten to sign in or something like that, and they've just come back. So you can allow them to sign in and then claim their thing, whatever they've been working on, or you can get them to create an account and then claim the thing. And there's a big risk there, is that they don't do any of that stuff and you never get their account details or anything like that, but that's fine. And so here we now have a lovely confirmation. That's the end of this step. So this is a step-by-step visualization of our prompt setup namespace here. So hopefully we should be able to do a test for that. And we have got... I think we want to do a test for the create action on... I need to make a little to-do list actually, don't we? I'll just do it for... Oh, Arc has gone down as well. It's really annoying. We can just do it in the free form for now, can't we? We can just do it in here and I'll transfer it over. I've been using linear a little bit, and that's pretty good. So we can pop some bits in there. So I'll try and do this. Like I said before, last time I was doing live streaming, I wasn't doing anything off stream, whereas now I want to move this forward, and this will just be a helpful thing. So create spec for deliveries controller. And in reality, like, it's not doing anything particularly complex, but if I don't do the spec now and then there's some complexity grows, I'll just kick myself that I end up having to write more later. So just pop something in. Confirmation only had show, so that's probably fine. Claim only has get, and that's got some tests in. So we're just missing that one at the moment. All right, so the other one I had done is I've got the start of some system specs because I want to be pretty light on the JavaScript side of things. So I'm hoping we can get a long way on the end-to-end test and on the end-to-end test stuff with system tests, maybe. Let's see whether that's a good idea or a bad idea or whatever. So we'll just do that whole flow and see how easy we can make life. So visit the homepage. So root path is the homepage at the moment. Fill in prompt content with example content. Click on create prompt. This is what we were just doing. I've then had to dip into the database because... Oh, I've just fudged it. You can see like I've just used example content there. Fine, that'll do for now. In reality, I think you can ask... have I done that in the past? You can basically ask Capybara at that point, like, what's the current URL? And then you can run like a regex or a regex over the URL to get the ID out. And then you can say, go and get that prompt and have that as representation. I've just fudged it there. It's fine for now. That's basically just check the next page is rendered. Click on schedule and continue. Again, that's the idea of creating that schedule. This then is doing not a test that you can see visually, so this is where we can start to change things. So what actually happens here, you see prompt setup confirmation. And we can just switch that so the ID is in there. Let's do that. And we'll just do oh, here we go. There's even a little bit there for us already, so we can do prompt confirmation. Oh, and we can even do, rather than having to dip into the database, we can just shove, none of this needs to look right. I've already forgotten the association we gave this. created by. Okay, this will break down because we need to sign in on that spec as well, because this was able to pass without a user, so we'll actually need the user to sign in first, which we can do in there as well. So let's just put their ID in. Yeah, so we can see prompt 21 confirmation. That can go because we've already got that. And we can say created by user whatever. Again, this is all just representative just to get it on the screen, just so we can run a test for it. So we can say and then we want to create a user up here. So we actually don't want to visit our root path. Let's sign out. We actually want to visit our sign up path. What's the device path for that? This is just going to give us an end-to-end test, just as we may as well start building these as we go through, just so we have some confidence when we break stuff moving through. Sign in, user session, here we go. Sign up. Okay, new user registration path, that's what we're looking for. So we want to do, oh, well, actually we'll come back to the home page because that's the only way. I'm assuming that's Copilot helping me out. And this is user email. Yep. With, and I'm assuming if I do this, will Copilot help me out? User password with password. Great. Okay, cool. And I can't remember what the button is. Click on sign up. Perfect. And what do we actually expect to happen there? Test one. Oh, it actually takes you back to the home page anyway. Fine. So don't actually think we need that. So this isn't hugely resilient, but it'll probably get us somewhere. So go and try and sign up. Create some details. Presumably that email might exist, but whatever. For now, fill in the content on the home page. Let's leave that last one in for now as well. And save all of that. Does any of this run? Hopefully we get. Click on sign up. Found 2 elements matching visible link or button. Sign up. Pretty cool. You get these little screenshot things helpfully now. Oh, there's one up here. There's one here. Oh, is that specifically a button? Can we do click button? Is that a thing? Often that's Copilot giving me that little prompt, but because it's not it's not like real autocomplete, I find Copilot regularly throws me under the bus, and it's like, oh, you're looking for click button, and I accept it, and then it turns out it's like, oh, the code I'm suggesting to you is not real in any way. Like, you've fallen for my trick. I'm just randomly generating stuff that may or may not be real. I'm not sure it's getting any better. It's definitely faster. All right, cool. So click button seemed to do a thing. So we did some stuff further on. Expect page to have content created by user. Oh, did I literally? Okay. So this, okay, I wasn't really paying attention. Sorry. I'll do this. Do this, and then we have probably want to find this user. I guess we want to do the same thing. Again, this probably isn't ideal. But this isn't going to be hugely long lasting. It'll just get us working. So here we can have check that user has been associated with the prompt. The view would fail because it wouldn't find the association anyways, but this test hopefully then makes some sort of readable sense. No, maybe not. Great. Okay, that passes. So do we have any failing tests? Okay, cool. So what's not working? Let's do these in some sort of order. So the claim controllers. Oh, so this is the test we were looking at. Okay, that's fine. When prompt does not have it, it redirects to the root path. So let's close a bunch of stuff down and just go and look at this. I think I've just changed this behavior and not looked. I didn't even read the test. We're just sort of being a bit flippant about that for now. Oh, I see. So this is, we're putting some logic in it to say, well, if the prompt isn't associated by anybody, I wonder if it's just quicker because of our previous stipulation that we know the user's going to be signed in, just to always overwrite. But let's just see what these tests. So when the prompt does not have a created by user ID, we'll sign in as a user. It sets it, so that's right. So this it redirects to oh no, this is to the confirmation. This is when I talked earlier about having a base class for the setup stuff. Where I've found it helpful here is that in those tests, you're then able to write redirects to the next step of the setup, because the base controller has a concept of like what's the next path that you're going to, what's the previous path. You basically just, on that base controller, you just tell it what the order of events is, and you can sort of have you might have like 6 or 7 steps, but given a bunch of state, you might only want to perform 3 or 4 of them, so it'll take care of all of that. And then in your test, you can say redirects to the next step, and you can either check that the logic is correct from the for the base controller by specifying it, or vice versa. You can just let it say, I'll go to the next one, whatever the next one is, depending on what you want from that specific test, what you're testing at that point. But we don't have any of that, so I'm just going to hard code the fact that it's going to the confirmation step. So we are still going there. We're going to redirect to prompts, sets up confirmation path for this prompt. Okay, so I think that was the first one. does not have a redirects to root path, redirects to confirmation. That's 24. So let's rerun this one. Great, that one passes. Okay, so the next one is 45. It's the same thing when the prompt has a, so it already has a user associated with it. Oh, I don't think this is actually the behavior we want. I think if you're viewing someone else's one, this will go away. So I actually think we can just fudge this one for now. But this test shouldn't exist because you shouldn't be able to get to this. But that's fine. Does the created by does the created by it does not change. You can see how much of a hurry I was in. Does not change the, that's the actual change we want there. And then 45 is redirect to root path. We don't want it to redirect to the root path. We're going to have it go to here. So let's see if 45 passes. Oh, sorry. Just erase that without checking the syntax. Is that just not saving again quickly? Like I'm pressing, yeah, that's so annoying. I'm pressing command save and then running the test like muscle memory, but that little gap that the whatever that extension is doing. And the other failure we were getting was this one here. Oh, so let's just check that whole file passes then. Yeah, okay, cool. So this is for the confirmation spec. Why wasn't that working? I was only doing one thing. Gosh. Oh, because we now don't have a user in the test setup, I would guess, and we're trying to render the user. So here we could say, we haven't got like factories or anything set up, but these are request specs, so that they are doing the whole stack, that they're sort of making DB requests. But I'm not going to introduce the concept of factories now. We can just say we'll just do user.create. So we do want real representations. I think here we would need to have I think you have to have a password. I can't. Just going to jump to the console to test this. I think you can't do that. Yeah, okay, so do you have to set a confirmation or anything, or can I just do great, okay, I can do that. So I can do and that's like a basic, I think that'll get you past device's basic requirements for what the password would be. And then this would be created by user. So I think the reason that test was failing is that the view is assuming, because we're going through that claim step, you should have a user by the time you get to the confirmation, but we didn't set one up in the test. So that's all, again, all fine. And eventually we'll want to say that at that point, you have to be signed in as the user that is viewing the confirmation. Cool. Okay, so is that our failing tests? Okay, and there's our example job, which we're going to erase. We're going to we'll come back to that. We just put our commit at the start. So what is in our change set? So I'm just using VS Code's Git stuff here rather than the command line. Just it's convenient. It's there. So confirmation controller, confirmation spec. Yep, and we've got the confirmation view, and we've got a confirmation route. I think at this point everything would either pass or fail as it was doing. So then I think that's a relatively isolated commit. Again, we're not being too specific because no one else is working on this at the moment. So let's bring our terminal back up. We're making a new branch. And we just want to say, what we're going to try and take with this branch, we're going to try and introduce confirmations. I've already forgotten what we said we were trying to get to. Oh, and let's do maybe that's maybe we'll go a bit further than the branch name would indicate, but we'll figure that out in a bit. So let's do git commit. Introduce doesn't do anything other. Let's say the plan for, we never know what will happen in the future. Plan for the confirmation step is that it doesn't do anything other than, why is my plugin to wrap that not working? Oh, there's 2 lines there. It's just because the font is so big. The plan for the confirmation is it doesn't do anything other than oh no, it really is broken. Why? Oh, there we go. Then show the user again, why am I doing it this way? Having a specific controller view for this has worked well for me in the past. With that pattern, and we'll see if it bites us later. I think at this point there's no not a lot of risk in that pattern here, because the assumption here after this confirmation is that you're sort of done until the actual, so you say to your prompt, I want to send this prompt to a bunch of recipients. Unless it's happening then right away, the setup of the prompt is actually really disconnected from the delivery and sending of it, potentially days, weeks, months apart. So just having a single step that says you're done, like an e-commerce checkout, is I think makes a lot of sense in this context. All right, cool. So what did we then do? We went back through and modify the delivery controller to point to the claim path, which changed that, and we changed the path. The claim controller. Can these all go up together? I think they probably can. Yeah. With the introduction of the confirmation step, we want to that's sort of not what I want to say. What? We now have the end-to-end to get there. We skipped over a few things, and then what were they? They were we're assuming the user exists and is signed in. This commit updates the redirection. Don't say that because that's in the title. System test to match the current experience of the end-to-end. Lots still to do here. That's fine. I just usually write something that tells me what I was, where I was at when I read that commit in a year's time. Was I at the start of the experience of writing this, or was I down a rabbit hole? If you put like lots to do here, you're like, oh, okay, this person was embarking upon a journey. All right, so we haven't made our job. So we've made our we've got a job here which will do our that's a spec, sorry. Okay, so we've got example job which will do this, and we've got the idea of a delivery schedule, but we want to try and see if we can, everything in here is kind of known. Can we get from this part, what's our prompt, when do you want to send it, to the idea of having a job that a worker can pick up from a queue? Let's see if we can get to there via our confirmation. So our prompt has the concept of knowing when we want to send it, and we store that in here. So it's going to be 10 minutes from now in time zone UTC, like arbitrarily. That's just hard coded for now, like I mentioned in the commit. So when we get to our confirmation, let's use that as the point that we want to schedule our job. Yeah, maybe, yeah, literally, like maybe the what's maybe there's a step before, but let's use the confirmation for now. Let's perform some actions on the show. This might be an awful place to do it, but we'll start there and work our way backwards. So the one thing we want to know from this is, when do we want to send this thing? So we're saying, hey, this thing's good to go, and we haven't got any other checks, but when do we want to send it? When are we going to send our prompt? And that brings us back to our ice cubes gem, I think. Ice cube gem Ruby. And if you remember, we've got our syntax from the console earlier where we had our example job. So this is the idea of scheduling a job in the future. So wait until some arbitrary time and perform later. Cool. So we can try and tie this together. So we've got this thing persisted, and we haven't got recurrence rules. We've just got this idea of occurs at all occurrences. We want the next occurrence, basically. First, next, boom. Okay, so this is what we want, I think. We want to say to this thing, the user is telling us they've gone through their setup process. They're telling us that this thing's good to go. Take the next occurrence, and we don't even from time.now, so that's fine. We can just say time.now for terminating schedule. Okay, so theoretically, let's make a new one. So we go through that now. Test create prompts. This is ID 22, and we've made number 22, so we can say like prompt.last. Cool. So that has a delivery schedule. Great. And that delivery schedule has no way of interacting with it because we haven't written one. That is, so let's leave our controller up here for a second. That is the representation of what we've stored. Oh, but wait, okay, so no, because schedule does guess that. Okay, so delivery, I knew I hated delivery schedule.schedule, but okay, so now we have so now we have, well, maybe we should rename delivery schedule, whatever. So can we do, I've already forgotten how to spell occurrence. Let's just copy it. Oh, okay, great. So we can ask a delivery schedule via the schedule property when its next occurrence is. And so I wonder if we might end up in, like, it would be interesting to look around the authoring of this part. So let's go back to our model for that. Let's close this just real quick, because do we always go through this and create this, like, or do we start offering affordances on here? I have no idea what we're actually going to do with this thing. But do we ask the delivery schedule? And do we have our own version of this? No, that seems awful, because then we're just going to end up yeah, because we could like delegate, I guess, but maybe we just have it ask schedule every time at the moment for now, and then we see how often we're doing any of this stuff. But it can't do... Yeah, let's just ask we'll just go through the schedule attribute at the moment. I don't know if that's a good idea. It's probably not, but okay, cool. So, but we can get there. So we can get from here everything we need to create to schedule our worker. So let's go into our. So we go through claim. Oh, maybe I was thinking about confirmation wrong. Maybe I was thinking as confirmation as only. Oh, maybe I was. Yeah, I think I've actually done. I think I've actually had this thought process in the past. Maybe confirmation for setting up your prompt isn't just a show view saying like, hey, here's all the stuff you've picked. So I've put the plan for the confirmation step is that it doesn't do anything other than show. Maybe that's not right. Maybe that's totally wrong. Maybe you actually go, oh, yeah, actually, because, yeah, okay, I think because you're going to need to say, this is where I should have like drawn this out better in Sketch, but you're going to need to say, yes, you're going to need to perform a confirmation. You're not. Yeah, okay. So what am I talking about? So having a show and what are you doing? You're creating it. And so this view here could be like, hey, here's all the stuff you've entered so far. Do you want to go back? This is the checkout process, right? Like it's an e-commerce checkout process. So you've added a bunch of stuff to your cart, you've done some upsells or whatever it is, you've gone through, and then you're showing your confirmation, but your confirmation is like review basket. Is this all the stuff you want? And on create, that's the point at which we perform the scheduling of the worker. You don't even need to do anything else because it is just, hey, you good? Is new. that's my experience of new. My description of it. Are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Great. Okay. And then you would perform the confirmation. Okay. I like all of that. I don't think it made any sense to anyone other than in my head, but let's implement that. So what does that look like? It means we need a couple of extra actions for our controller. We're going to have new. Hey, hey, you good with all this stuff? Create. Yes, I am creating a confirmation. I'm creating the idea that I'm good with this. And then show. Hey, well done. This is all confirmed. We've saved it. And you could even have destroy if you decide like, uh-oh, I didn't want any of that. You could even have a destroy action for confirmation that would just undo all of that stuff or delete it or whatever. Okay, cool. So that is some new routes there, which means we want to go and take a look at, yeah, we can do the request specs, I guess. So we can do, Rails just, I think it just sticks a new in front, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh God, messed that up. Okay, cool. So we have got this, and then you can have describe post create, and it doesn't do that. It redirects to Yes. Okay, cool. That's all I wanted to do. And then theoretically, there's some state change that happens there so that you couldn't get to the show view without going through it. But again, we're fudging a bunch of stuff here. We'll come back for all of that. But we've skipped over our user stuff, but we can get to where we're going. So all of these should now fail. Are we doing these in here? No, we're doing them in here. All right, cool. So these are failing like we thought they would, because there's nothing wired up. So let's go and new and create. So these exist here. This can do all of them. Just explicitly stating the ones that are available, rather than assuming all of them are going to be, and just make it super explicit what this is doing. And then we're going to do the views. Actually copy this one because it's what we want for new as well. You happy to confirm prompt blah blah. And we can leave create by because we still want to test that the user has been associated, and then we can stick in link to confirm. I think we can do this method put, but I think we can do button 2, button 4. Is that a thing? Button 2 confirm. Do you need method post on button 2? It's got method delete. Oh, these are the devise ones. Okay, I would just assume that post would be the default action for button. Maybe it's better to be explicit. Okay, so that prompt confirmation part. Well, that isn't right either. This is Copilot. Prompt setup confirmation path. I think Copilot is steering me wrong in a bunch of these ways, but so that's new. And then this show is prompt confirmation. So this is the confirmation we already had before. Okay, cool. So that gets us to there, and we can go and think about trying to make this a bit more step by step, but again, I'm not sure it really matters this early on. We can just get there. So we want to change where you go from the claims controller. This now goes to the new confirmation. I'd say theoretically, I think that might just work now. Let's go back here. Copilot was lying to me. New prompt setup confirmation path. Prompt setup confirmation path. What did I have it down as then? Prompt setup confirmation path. Prompts. Yeah, I think I accepted the... Okay, cool. So you can see here we're then like, you happy to confirm prompt 23? And then we can say yes, and nothing will happen. But what we can do is actually posting anything. What's actually happening there? Yes, okay, great. So nothing happens on here, and we now want it to do, we'll have it do our scheduling. So let's take our, this is going to be pretty dumb to start with, but we can say this. So we've got our prompt here. We can call this schedule first delivery at, maybe that name's not good. Oh, hey, in the chat, again, I'm going to have a little clip that we can link people to explain it, just so there'll be a little 4 or 5 minute description that I did at the start. But we are going to make an application. We're going to really make it this time rather than doing little examples, where basically you can make a prompt and send it to a group of people. So you can say like, hey, what do you think of this TV show or something like that? And you create the prompt, have it send out to a bunch of people, a bunch of recipients. Those people have a conversation with a chatbot, like a normal ChatGPT wrapper sort of thing, and then the app collates all of their responses basically. So then you can say you create these sort of like private collations of conversations, like a ChatGPT thing, but just you see all of everyone else's conversations, and then you can ask questions around what they thought. You can sort of get qualitative feedback from a group of people about a thing and whatever you want. And so what we're working on is this idea of like creating a prompt. What do you want to know about? Creating a bunch of recipients. We're sort of skipping over that part for now. And then we're going to schedule the delivery of this prompt. And so we're just working on the idea of like having a scheduled delivery at the moment. And so I think we had this idea of our job earlier on, just right back here. Okay, cool. So we'd probably want a bunch of resilience around this, about the idea of if you've scheduled it for 2 minutes from now and then it takes you 20 minutes to get to the confirmation step, you're now too far behind. So you're probably going to need that to be, I wonder how the job handler handles that actually. Like if you try and schedule something for 20 minutes ago, does it just do it now? I'm not really sure. That might be worth playing around with. So we're going to schedule first delivery. Not sure that's the best naming of that, but again, you saw earlier there was a bunch of naming in the app that made no sense later on. So schedule first delivery at, schedule it. You don't schedule something at, you schedule it for, right? Schedule. Wait. First delivery schedule. Yeah, that'll do. So we don't want this example job. We want a real job. But maybe all of this can just wait just a second, and we can just do our redirect for now. We can just go to our confirmations step. So we're just going to skip over the bit we actually care about just to get some. Yeah, okay, so our test pass, and then let's just do our other, because now we'll have broken our other tests. So let's just be tidy up behind ourselves before we try and jump into the worker. Because all we've done is insert an extra step on the confirmations controller, like to give ourselves a seam at which we can insert the worker. So this is just because we changed where we're redirecting that one. I'm just going to run all the tests again. It's not a long feedback loop. Great. Okay, so yeah, it's quite a long feedback loop. I'm assuming these ones are the same. So in the claim controller, yeah, this is the other path in the claim controller. Sorry, I should have done both at the same time. That one is down here, so they both go to. Again, one of those will just go away when we get all the user stuff sorted, and create a prompt create spot. So this is our user test, like our system test. All right, great. So now we click on schedule and continue. And so now we expect page. Again, we want our creator test and we want to have, let's say, are you happy to confirm prompt, blah, blah, blah. So again, we're just checking via the UI that we are. Are you happy to confirm prompt? I think there's a question mark there. And then on here, you're going to click something. Yes. Confirm. And then we had switched to our show view. Oh, which I've just deleted the other thing, which is this line here we want back. Can I make that bigger? Yes. Oops. Okay, cool. So. Oh, hey. Oh, Finian. Oh, I miss you, man. I haven't seen you in a million years. Finn is. Hopefully, is my. I don't know if my chat is appearing on the screen. I did try and get that set up, but it's been a while since I've used this, so I'll just read this one out in case the chat didn't appear on the screen. I haven't got my setup. If you're using ChatGPT already, it might be fun to allow the user to type in their desired schedule in freeform text. And then pass that to ChatGPT to convert it into cron syntax. I totally agree. I actually did play with that, and I will get to the second part of your message. You can actually specify use this Ruby gem. So you can say like, hey, I'm using the. You don't have to make your prompt too big, but you can say like, hey, I'm using Ice Cube gem. I want this thing that happens every other Thursday, blah blah blah, and it will generate that for you. So yes, totally agree. Because if you saw the UI I was showing in Sketch, it's such a pain in the bum to visually represent irregularly recurring things or even regularly recurring things. Like, it's just such a weird UI metaphor. And I have to use Outlook all the time, and it has just the worst manifestation of that UI. So the idea of freeform text makes a lot of sense to me. I think I would want either or, because something about my brain typing in every other Thursday doesn't tell me what every other Thursday looks like. And then pass it to him. This can then be loaded into the scheduler Sidekick. Oh, it's solid cube it's sending. I tried it while for a proof of concept and it worked great. Yeah, completely agree. I think there's like going to be a weird little period here where like most inputs you collect are potentially like you don't need to have them structured, but this goes back to the sort of mix of structured and unstructured data that I think could be really interesting, because every once in a while you sort of want to force something. And so I was thinking of the idea of like, you could have, let's say that you're sending a prompt out to a team, a group of people you're working with, and it's like, hey, like check on their vibes, like how are they feeling, or something like really vague that a chat, like a prompt could like a chat GPT thing could work with. But then you might also be like, oh, but I need them to, I don't know, like I need them to pick from these 4 options. But for legal reasons, I don't want you to infer from a typo the one that they've picked. Like I need it to be the right one. So there's this like really strong pull, I think, towards like things like that. And then every once in a while there's going to be like, no, I need it to be this, and I need to represent it. So that's like going to be really fun, I think, for inputs and output stuff. I think that'd be really fun. Brutal for users for the ambiguous period in between, because people know how a form works and people hate chat interfaces, normal people. Yeah. So it's a basic check-in feature with aggregatable results. Not just the aggregatable results, but like I want to ask, like I think it would then be fun to have a conversation about the results. Like you could then sort of say to the chatbot, like, it's just vibes all the way down. So you ask a group of people, hey, you know, what did you think about that meeting on Thursday or something like that? And then you get 20 responses or whatever it is. And then you pump all of those so rather than aggregating the results and showing you like, hey, these people hated it, you actually say to this thing, right, let's talk about it. Like we'll just do more vibes about the thing. Or I could get recursive. You could do like you could do a prompt that was like, hey, what was your vibe about the meeting? And then 20 people submit their responses, and then you say, hey, what do you think about these? I've got the responses. What do you think other people thought? And you make the second follow-up a conversation about what everyone else thought. It's truly dystopian in like how corporate that could get. That's where we're heading. All right, cool. So let me finish this. But hey, Finian, it's lovely to hear from you. I miss you. It's been a little while. I saw Finian last time I saw Finian was in person and in real life. He lives on the other side of the planet, but I got to see him a little while ago. All right, so we have got expect page to have content prompt create confirmation. That's our final step, and then we're just checking for this thing existing, which will be a pointless test at the end. But I've already forgotten which ones we broke, so let's just run them again. Oh, and I think I forgot to save this as well, so it won't pass anyway. Sorry. Oh, it did pass. Okay, great. So it's getting to our confirmation. So we're going all the way through. Okay, cool. So we'll just save that. And so we can get to from one end to the other. And so we can get back to the bit that's actually interesting. And then we'll, where are we at? It is 10 past 10. Okay, so let's say we're going to wrap up over the next like 15-20 minutes or so. Just it's getting a little bit late here. These are, like I said, these are going to be of irregular schedule and sort of intermittent release schedule, just based on day-to-day life. So let's go to our confirmation controller and do the fun part. So we then want to say, we know when the next occurrence is, and then we need a job. So what's our job going to do? Our job is going to do our prompt delivery. Oh, and I have given this some thought. So let's go back to freeform, because I was sort of thinking how agnostic could you get? So I was sort of thinking about this, like So the idea of trying to make these a bit bigger, I was just sort of having a play around with these, like one of the things I think could be fun, and I'm really stretching the definition of fun there, but Finian used it as well, is the idea of you could have a delivery method of like email is pretty straightforward. So that's what we'll do to start with. You send a link, they click on it, they go through some sort of magic sign in, and then they have this interaction where they get asked a question or a series of questions or something like that. You could also have that happen in Slack or one of the other many bajillion chat apps or WhatsApp or whatever it is. And you sort of, all you need is a recipient delivery mechanism and then the prompt to know to use that. So as long as the recipient and the prompt line up, you could be like, hey, send it via Slack, send it via email. Those things tend to get pretty complex pretty quickly. I do use some stuff like this in real life. And I think it can get pretty tricky. Like if you start on Slack, but then they want to switch medium, or like things like that can get pretty complicated, and less fun. So here we've got this scheduled prompt delivery. Here we've got the idea of prompt delivery attempts. What happens if it doesn't arrive? Do you resend it? Recipient collections, you're probably going to want to send it to a group of people. These are just ideas for some stuff. Prompt collections, I think, is interesting because having a question is probably not that useful. You usually want more than one type of thing. You either want to ask them a series of questions, or you want to pick from a random group. That's actually a specific use case that I have. I used to use this app where it would send sort of like this, it would send a bunch of stuff out to recipients and it would get it back. But what I really, really liked about it, my favorite feature, was you could give it a bucket of things to ask, and you could give each individual one. So in this case, there'd be a prompt. You could say, always send this one. And then you could say like, pick from the rest, or this one should go every third time you send it. And things like that. That was really, really helpful. So it meant that the recipients didn't get bored of recurring prompts. So you're like, hey, how did your week go? Or, what's your favorite color? All of that stuff. And then sometimes they would get out of the blue random stuff. And they were like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And so these are some of the other like drawings I was doing. So I've just sort of been like, just interested with this freeform thing, playing around. So the reason I was looking at that, is that scheduled prompt delivery, so that we can should we just have a prompt delivery job for now? Yeah, let's just pick that arbitrarily. And we know that that's probably not going to last us forever. That's probably a bit simplistic to start with, but it'll get us there. This the only reason I wrote earlier that I kept the example job around is just to keep the keep all of the syntax that it came for free with the boilerplate stuff. Prompt delivery. Now that I'm writing that out, I'm realizing that prompt delivery means delivered promptly, which makes no sense. Okay, so queue as default. So that's the idea of having multiple queues. Also, Finian mentioned like sidekick question mark, but we touched on earlier. I've installed this solid queue, which is this database backed one. So let's see how we get on with that. And then we've got this perform method, and I think that's all we need. And normally most of the jobs sort of tend to just call other code most of the time. I think here we can sort of do our do a bit of a ham-fisted job of just coming up with something. So we've got a prompt delivery job and a prompt delivery job spec, and then that means here we can have a prompt delivery job set. Wait until there. Oh, actually, yeah. This will be a nice chance to wrap it up for tonight, actually. So what we'll do is we'll get this to get created when we go through, and then we'll output the contents in our console 20 seconds later or whenever it's supposed to set up. So that'll be a good way to wrap up. All right, so we're going to do our confirmation, and that's going to create a job, and it will appear in our console. And in our prompt delivery job, yeah, we'll just have it spit this stuff out. So what are we going to have it spit out? This is just underscore args from the template, but this is just, we can define these, right? So this could be, oh, do I want them as objects or would I want them to load from the DB? That's a decision that's usually made per. So if I schedule a job with the object as an argument, it will not reflect the current state of that object. I'm assuming that object will be snapshot at the point of scheduling. So it depends on what this thing needs. Let's just do that for now. And then if I do this and just save it and then go back to my console. Can I do prompt delivery job? Ah, damn, I never use this thing. Prompt delivery job. It's tab, okay. Dot. Where in that syntax do you put the arguments? So this is like just the active job. So I could ask Copilot. Active job basics, that's all I really need. Basic is my vibe. And queue the job. So guest calendar, perform later guest. So I'm just reading through this. Is there any advantage to just using args versus specifying it? So this is just allowing you to pass in under the hood, so you can pass in as many arguments as defined in the latter. But can you specify them? Oh, here, yes. So, oh, well, let's just try this out. I'm not really sure what's best there. What's actually doing? Perform now. Actually name it. It's still not it's still taking ages. I have to get that fixed. Okay, so then I need to reload the thing again. Oh great, okay, cool. So it called the right code, so perform like PUS. Okay, so turns out we're just writing PUS is not helpful, so we can say let's we can just spit it out for just for 2 seconds. It's really taking its time to save. It's really annoying. Cool. Okay, so there's our dummy prompt. Great. So that means that we have a named argument here. I don't know if that's good or bad. We can sort of I think it's probably fine for now because the scheduled out is coming from in here. So set wait until they perform later prompt. Because I'm guessing it wouldn't even need the prompt. You'd want like the generated secret key to link them to. Like the actual prompt is probably pretty irrelevant. You just have an object of stuff to render an email, I guess. This would be prompt. And in here, let's spit out some example. You have any? Okay, Copilot, you describe it. And the prompt is going to be the contents. I've already. What's it called? Is it called content? I've already forgotten what it's actually called. Content. Yep. I am a bot. Here's my question. Nail this human interaction stuff. Okay, so theoretically, nothing is saving when I click save. Oh, it's really struggling. I think maybe that new laptop isn't so far away in my future. Okay, cool. So when is it actually scheduling it for? 10 minutes from now. That's too long. Let's say 30 seconds from now. I actually don't know what time zone I'm in because we just save from now and then we'll just assume that the server will figure it out. I think UTC would be fine because it'd just be happening on the server side, but I don't know what's happening. I think I'm in BST right now because it's not the clock's changed. God. This is what I haven't done this in a long time, but my memory of doing these streams is that it shows how many things I Google in a day that I should probably know. What time zone am I in? What's my name? All right, okay, cool. So let's go back to the start. And we are going to fire off our queue worker thing. And that was bin job? Oh, I should have checked. Jobs. Yes, great. Okay, cool. So that's our queue fired up. This is our console, which we won't need. And we're just going to watch this thing. So let's put this on the right-hand side. And this will be a hugely successful interaction. And then we can ditch this half. And then we can come through here. So we're signed in. We'll see if this works. So we can say, oh no, this is what we'll say. It worked. This is optimistic. I'll copy that because we're going to put it in every one that fails. And then we're going to say, create the prompt. Schedule it. That creates the timestamp. Confirm it. That creates the confirmation. And then maybe it's made a worker. I've already forgotten how many seconds we put. And now I can't change the tab to look at it. I think it was it 30 seconds. That's way too long. But I think we would, if that worked, and we can split the tabs out when it doesn't work, we would expect to see a little block of output there. Or a bunch of errors or something. I don't know. Oh, hey, great. It did work. Okay, amazing. So what we're outputting there is the object that we created. So we collected some content at the start. Okay, it has fired twice, which is... Oh, did we... It has fired twice? Which is something we probably need to fix. Interesting. I don't know why it fired twice. Oh, it didn't though. Just randomly output this. Oh, is this the output from the worker being closed down? So that's the actual output that we specified from the worker, from the job, sorry. Because it's got the, I stuck some bits at the top and bottom. This, I'm assuming, is some output from something. If we just do that again, sorry, I know that was going to be a hugely triumphant ending, but let's just go back through. Let's just turn this down to 15 because it doesn't take that many seconds, and then we'll pop back through and just do that again. So we're going to say it worked again, just to prove our success. So we've got 15 seconds created now. Confirm there. That's going to create our schedule. So just want to see if the same thing happens. Okay, so there is oh, okay. Was that just me in terminal? Was it that? Ah, okay. I think it was me. Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's one of my least favorite item feature, which is that any select text. Okay, great. Okay, no, go back to the previous triumph. It totally worked first time, and we don't need to worry about that nonsense. Okay, great. It worked. So imagine, what have we done? What have we done? We have done amazing things. So this user flow that we get. So what is the prompt you want to send? You want to send a bunch of people a prompt, and this bot thing is going to kick this conversation. When do you want to send it? Great. Well, we haven't asked them yet, so we can have a UI for that, or it could be a little text box like Finian says. When do you want to send it? Cool. How does it want to be recurring? Whatever it is. Who do you want to send it to? We're skipping over that altogether. Current user, you've already done that. We're forcing that to now. Claim the prompt. That's all. That we did that part. That works. You have to have the user present. Confirmation. So we show you the confirmation. Do you want to confirm? We show you basically nothing, but theoretically it's all there. Yes, I do. Boom. At that point, this thing here, this job gets created, and a worker or whatever you want to describe them as, the job gets picked up from the queue. And at this point, this is the bit we can then work on, where it sends a unique link to the recipients. So at the moment, remember our stipulations from the start, the recipients are just going to be the person who signed in. So we know their email address because they had to be signed in to do it. And we will generate a signed URL so that that person using that URL can go to the next bit of UI and then interact with the bot thing. And we're going to wrap it up because that is 2.5 hours. Haven't done this for a long time, and then I'm going to go and have a long sleep. But thank you to people in the chat. I've super enjoyed being back. We're gonna, like I said, going to try and do this at an irregular schedule, and we'll see how we get on. So thanks a lot for checking in, and hopefully we'll build an app. Thanks a lot.